morning and welcome to Rising. Our show was brought to you today by Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I took a little tumble on the way to the studio today, and I think my arm's okay, but we'll find out at the doctor's later. So just
It makes it seem like it's your fault, Robbie.
I'm not blaming the other
Robbie's
person.
fault.
It was certainly mutual wrongdoing. I was just so excited to talk about the news today. I wasn't looking closely enough where I was going on my little scooter. So here we are.
Yes, Robbie versus a car door. Persecution by your political opponents, Robbie.
Indeed, more of this deep state malfeasance. Well, let's get to it while I'm still conscious and the painkillers are kicking in. We're just 10 weeks out from the election. Former President Donald Trump officially launching his transition team. Now, in a bold move, Trump has named two former Democrats, Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr., as honorary co-chairs of the team. Meanwhile, the controversy surrounding Trump's recent Arlington Cemetery visit has quickly escalated after Trump posted this video of himself at the cemetery. Let's watch.
We lost 13 great people. What a horrible day it was. We didn't lose one person in 18 months. And then they took over that disaster, the leaving of Afghanistan.
Now, for anyone who missed it, this is what happened. Basically, Trump's team visited Arlington National Cemetery on Monday. He was invited there by the Gold Star families to commemorate the third anniversary of the attack at the Kabul airport in Afghanistan that killed 13 U.S. service members. The problem is that federal law prohibits political campaign or election-related activities within the Army National Military cemeteries. That includes Arlington. A cemetery official reportedly told Trump's team that he could not come with campaign staff. After a cemetery employee tried to enforce the rules, a Trump campaign aide insisted the camera was allowed and pushed past the employee. The cemetery employee filed an incident report, but has declined to press charges. Military officials told the New York Times the employee feared Trump supporters would retaliate against her if she did. The family of a Green Beret who is buried there has also since expressed concern about videos and photos taken by his grave. Now, meanwhile, the Trump campaign has insisted they had permission for the photographer. One Trump spokesman said in a statement, quote, "The fact is that a private photographer was permitted on the premises, and for whatever reason, an unnamed individual clearly suffering from a mental health episode decided to physically block members of President Trump's team during a very solemn ceremony." And this was what Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, had to say about the whole controversy. Let's watch that.
Could you tell us more about the altercation that happened at the Arlington Cemetery?
Well, I think, first of all, the altercation at Arlington Cemetery is the media creating a story where I really don't think that there is one. There is verifiable evidence. There is verifiable evidence that the campaign was allowed to have a photographer there. There's verifiable, they were invited to have a photographer there. There's verifiable evidence that the families of these poor people who had their loved ones die 3 years ago at Abbey Road, Abbey Gate, those 13 Americans, a lot of them were there with the president. They invited him to be there and to support them. That's not an insult to the memories of their loved ones. They wanted Donald Trump there, and thank God that we have a president who stands with our veterans. But to have those 13 Americans lose their lives and not fire a single person is disgraceful. Kamala Harris is disgraceful. We're going to talk about a story out of those 13 brave, innocent Americans who lost their lives. It's that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened, and she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
Strong words from J.D. Vance.
Go ahead, Robbie.
I was just going to say strong words from J.D. Vance. What did you make of it, Jessica?
I think that blaming Kamala for a story that was not a story Kamala broke. She's not one of the reporters who covered this. It's not her saying it, but it definitely helps the JD Vance. Oh, this is just, the other side trying to make us look bad. But it really does sound like this was a violation of Section 80, that photographers, while maybe someone was permitted who was there to take pictures, he's saying there's verifiable evidence of it. I haven't seen that in any of the stories I've read about it. I don't know what they're referring to in regards to that, but that's very different from filming TikToks and posting. And so I think, yeah, if you're going to a wreath laying ceremony, this is not something that you use to make political media and really make a political point about the pulling out from Afghanistan. This is a wreath laying ceremony, and there's a reason for these restrictions on campaigning, filming, and photographing there. I think the altercation sounds like a terrible way to respond to someone who's there to protect, sacred ground where people are buried who laid their life on the line for the country. It sounds pretty bad what went down there. And the Trump campaign tried to make it so this didn't get out, that this altercation happened. And of course, she's afraid of Trump supporters retaliating. That's something they would absolutely do if she got in the way of something that was good for the campaign. So I honestly hope she does end up pressing charges so we can figure out what happened that day.
Yeah, look, the campaign has to follow whatever the rules are. Mutually, all campaigns should have to. So if there's limitations on what kind of photography should be going on for campaign reasons or other reasons, that type of thing, then yeah, that was a screw up. And obviously, getting physical or roughing people up is always a bad look and a bad thing. So, I don't. Is it fair to blame Kamala Harris for it? No, of course not. So that was not a good strategy. And the Trump campaign, has to watch out for things like this, that, these are unforced errors. There was no reason they had to do this. I did want to talk about what we led the segment with. I think this is very interesting. Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., both former Democrats, both people who have sought the presidency, not as Republicans, are now endorsing and supporting and would be part of the transition team if he wins, of Donald Trump. This is part of the argument Republicans are going to make, that the Republican Party is the big tent party, is the home not just for conservatives, but for disaffected liberals and progressives, for the Kennedy name, the name that for 50 years was more associated with the Democratic Party than any other dynasty, now a prominent member endorsing the Republican president. Tulsi Gabbard, someone who was seen as a very promising, up-and-coming, a veteran woman, progressive Bernie Sanders supporter, appealed to the mainstream media for a time because of her identity-based reasons, and is now, persona non grata on the left, in the media, on the Democratic side, because she, dissents from some of their orthodoxies over the years on foreign policy and COVID and social issues, et cetera, now part of the GOP. I think as the Democratic Party continues to make unwelcome people who do not automatically fall in line with the elite consensus, there are going to be more defectors in this vein.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders, the biggest example of someone who doesn't fall in line with the elite consensus of the Democratic Party, still sees a home in the Democratic Party, sees their vision as more aligned with what's needed to stand up to the wealthy people in the country and have an economy that works for working people. These are not things that Tulsi Gabbard or RFK Jr. ever ran on. So to me, their exit of the Democratic Party is welcome. RFK Jr. himself, spoke a lot about how he wasn't going to stand up to America's biggest corporations. Tulsi Gabbard never laid out a meaningful economic vision for the working class. So as far as I'm concerned, they left the Democratic Party long before they ever endorsed Trump. They were already more aligned with Donald Trump than they ever were with the Democrats. So it just makes sense to me. I think a lot of them are emoting because they're upset that Democrats had, lawsuits against RFK Jr., lawsuits that I disagree with, but I still see this as a response, sort of in bitterness from both Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr., because they had failed campaigns and they see the Democrats as, not being welcome to them. RFK Jr., there's reporting, was in talks with the Kamala Harris campaign. They were not interested in having him be a part of the administration. That's what he wanted in exchange for dropping out. And so I think these are two candidates who feel rejected by the party. So they were welcomed in the other in an effort to get their voters, to get their supporters. But Tulsi Gabbard's been doing Fox News hits since like early 2021. So I'm not surprised that either of them have dropped out and supported Trump. I don't think they're bringing anyone with them that wasn't already out of the Democratic Party.
We shall see. More Rising right after this.